Despite the surrounding issues, we have to be clear that the debate today is not specifically about changing the laws around termination limits. It's not about changing the eligibility for legal abortions, nor is it about changing the requirements for administering abortions. This is about changing antiquated laws from a bygone era that are no longer fit for our modern understanding of women's bodily autonomy or women's health. The Abortion Act, 1967, is now almost 60 years old. There are many things that have changed in terms of women's rights. In fact, it wasn't until 1992 that the idea that women could be raped by their husbands was criminalised. This near 60-year-old law is in urgent need of updating so that it protects women and our right to bodily autonomy rather than seeking to control it. Some of the other legislation that criminalises women for accessing healthcare dates to as early as the 1600s. In 2020, I was pleased to join parliamentarians in voting to repeal legislation in Northern Ireland that prosecuted women for terminating their own pregnancy. Yet in England, Scotland and Wales, this type of legislation remains in place. The rest of the UK is dragging so far behind the rest of the world that in England and Wales we have the harshest criminalisation of abortion than any other country in the world, and this includes countries that are actively anti-abortion, such as Poland and the USA. In fact, when President Trump announced his plans to criminalise women accessing abortion, he faced backlash from the Susan B. Anthony list, ardent anti-abortion campaigners. And in the past 3 years in England, 6 women have appeared in court charged with ending or attempting to end their own pregnancy. And abortion providers estimate that for every woman who ends up in court, at least 10 others are subject to prolonged police investigations. When we're talking about the women being criminalised, we're not just talking about women who have accessed abortions beyond the legal term limit, or even those who have been suspected of doing so. It's also about women who've experienced miscarriages and stillbirths. These women are being criminalised, investigated and treated like criminals when they are going through a difficult and traumatic experience. As someone who has experienced a stillbirth myself, I can't express to you how traumatic it is, and the idea that this most difficult time, which can be the most difficult time in your lives, that you be treated in this way, it just bears no understanding whatsoever. And I remember that at a point very late on in my pregnancy, I was strongly advised, in fact, I felt under pressure to terminate my pregnancy. By doctors, not by anybody else. I was told that an injection could be given that would stop my baby's heart, and I would still have to give birth because of how late on this was. Now, I said no, and what I want to point out here is that it was my choice. It's very important to stress that it was my choice. We spend so much time fighting for abortion rights and that right to healthcare that we have no time to make the point that this is all about a choice that women are given. And so many come at this from a point of faith, and you need to understand that the right to exercise your faith in healthcare is a human right. And if you take one right away and you relinquish it for one group of women who may choose to act for whatever reason, you relinquish it from those women who may choose not to move forward with an abortion. And I think that we have to keep stressing that. It is about a choice. As women, and as a black woman, in fact, things have been done to our bodies as women over years for which we gave no consent. And these rights that we have now are about our autonomy, and we have to maintain them in whatever way that we can. Now, it can't be right that whilst a woman is in this situation, that the National Police Chief Council's recent guidance includes instructions to search women's homes, their internet history, text messages, and even their fertility tracking apps. This is awful, and the guidance also alarmingly outlines ways in which the police can obtain abortion-related medical records from NHS providers like MSI UK without a court order. Pregnancy loss is a devastating tragedy, and those who endure it deserve compassion and support, not criminalisation. It's grossly unacceptable to treat grieving parents as potential subjects in the loss of their child, and this guidance risks compounding grief with the fear of prosecution, creating an effect that could deter women from seeking medical help or honest conversations with healthcare providers. Equally, the decision to end a pregnancy can be devastating and a tragedy, and those who endure it deserve also compassion and support, not criminalisation. Access to healthcare should never be a criminal matter. Making it so only puts lives at risk. Rather than targeting bereaved families, there should be a focus on improving maternal healthcare, addressing systemic failures and ensuring that every parent receives the support they need during such a loss. As Louise McCudden, the head of the External Affairs at MSI UK, said, the guidance will be fueling a culture of hostility and suspicion towards not just abortion, but pregnancy loss. This policy is born out of a culture that demonises and criminalises women who access their abortions using their bodily autonomy, and it's sweeping up women who have seen their pregnancy come to an unplanned end. No one deserves to be investigated for ending their own pregnancy, and they certainly do not deserve it when they have lost their child. These women and their partners need support during this time, but they won't get it if they're being treated like criminals. The continued criminalisation of abortion is antiquated, it lacks compassion, and it needs to come to an end. And again, it is about a choice, and every woman should be allowed to make the choice based on her views and her beliefs. That is what our human rights are supposed to be about. Thank you.